The chopper's blades thumped like a racing heartbeat, slicing through the dusk as it hovered just above the ridge. Dust and pine needles swirled below, stinging the eyes of the paramedics crouched on the ground. They shielded their faces, squinting up, waiting for the bird to touch down. But something was wrong, terribly wrong. The pilot's voice crackled through the radio, sharp and panicked. No H. No marqueres. I've got nothing. We're pulling out. With a gut-wrenching lurch, the helicopter banked hard and roared away, Leah VYing the crew stunned, and a father's desperate cry echoing in its wake. His son, strapped to a stretcher, needed that airlift to make it to the hospital in time. The landing pad wasn't blocked. It was gone erased under a smug coat of beige paint, stamped with the letters P in gaudy gold, framed by tacky floral swirls. Mark Dawson stood frozen, his stomach twisting as the chopper's lights faded into the horizon. He glanced at the rancher beside him, the man's face crumpling as hope slipped away. 3 days ago, everything had been fine. Mark lived on a quiet parcel at the edge of Willow Creek's Property Owners Association, technically outside its grasp. His home sat on a gentle hill, anchored by a federally certified helicopter landing pad he'd installed years back for wildfire evacuations. The neighbors knew about it, most didn't care. It was just a slab of concrete with a white H, unremarkable until flames or floods made it a lifeline. That all changed when Linda Harper took over as POA president. She wasn't just strict. She was a tyrant with a paint roller, hell-bent on turning the neighborhood into her personal VY Shaun of suburban perfection. To her, Mark's pad was an eyesore, a gritty smudge on her beige utopia. The trouble started when Mark came back from a weekend training course to find workers in neon vests swarming his property, slathering the pad with the POA's signature tan the same shade plastered on every mailbox and picket fence. "What the hell is this?" he shouted, storming toward them. The foreman barely looked up, while VYing a clipboard. "Orders from Linda. POA compliance." Mark was floored. "This is federal property. You can't touch it." Within hours, he was at the POA office, face-to-face with Linda. She stood in the lobby, fussing with fake roses, sporting a bedazzled VY sore and a mug that screamed, "Coffee keeps me CIVYL." When Mark demanded answers, she barely glanced his way. "Mark, that ugly slab was dragging down property values. The neighbors thanked me." He blinked, incredulous. "It's an FAA-certified emergency pad, Linda. You're screwing with disaster response." She smirked, sipping her coffee. "Nobody needs a helipad unless they're filming a MOVYE. Drive like the rest of us." Furious, Mark didn't waste time. He filed complaints with the FAA, the county, and the state's disaster office. Knowing red tape moved like molasses, he covered his base for posting warning signs around the pad, emailing a military contact, and pinning a notice to the POA bulletin board with photos of the pad SAVYing lives during last year's fires. But Linda was unfazed. By Saturday, POA security, 2 busybodies in golf carts started circling his property, snapping photos and measuring his fence. Mark caught one trying to yank off a state-issued emergency plaque, muttering about unauthorized signage. He set them straight, but the stakes skyrocketed when disaster struck. Heavy rains up north turned a nearby river into a monster, washing out rural roads. A friend, Tom Rivera, lived on one of those cut-off ranches. His 9-year-old son, Ethan, had fallen from a horse, bleeding internally. The ambulance couldn't VY gate the flooded backroads fast enough, so they called for a chopper. The plan was simple: land on Mark's pad, transfer Ethan, and hit the hospital in 12 minutes flat. But Linda's beige paint had obliterated the markers. The pilot, disoriented, couldn't find the pad and diverted to a muddy sports field miles away. Those 12 minutes stretched to 30. Itan survived body. The doctor pulled Mark aside later. 5 more minutes, and we'd have lost him. That night, Mark stood by the defaced pad, staring at the gold pit gleaming under his floodlights. Sleep was out of the question. He dragged out backup signs from his shed and repainted the borders by hand, not just for VY-cibility, but for proof. By dawn, he'd uploaded the chopper's diverted flight path to the Emergency SARE VYCS database, emailed the FAA with before and after photos, and CC'd every official he could think of. He called in a favor from an Air National Guard buddy at FEMA and requested an expedited inspection from the Office of Evaluation Infrastructure. While Linda posted selfies on her POA blog, grinning with a paintbrush and crowing about taming eyesores, Mark was building a war chest. Monday afternoon, as Linda tweaked her patio fountain and scolded a kid for a crooked lawn gnome, a black helicopter with federal markings descended toward the pad. She sprinted up the hill, waving her arms like an unhinged air traffic controller. "You can't land here. This is POA property." The chopper hovered, cameras flashing. It didn't land, but it didn't leave. Mark stood by the pad, arms crossed, his silence louder than her screams. Linda had no idea she'd just violated federal evaluation law. That pad wasn't just concretite, was a protected emergency corridor. Her paint job wasn't just stupid, it was criminal. Mark didn't let up. As the federal chopper pulled away, he was in his office, sifting through emails and paperwork like a general prepping for battle. The FAA and FEMA moved fast when pushed, but they needed airtight EVY Denke. Linda had handed him plenty: unauthorized repainting, documented obstruction of emergency access. To lock it down, he cited the County Emergency CES office, meeting a clerk, Sarah, who remembered him from last year's wildfire rescues. She flagged the diverted flight as a critical incident. Next, he sparred with a zoning super SOR who hinted the pad might fall under POA rules. Mark shut that down with proof of his land's non-POA status and the pad's federal designation. The super SOR backed off, issuing a jurisdiction letter. Back home, Mark rigged the pad with motion sensors and reposition cameras for full coverage. He knew Linda's type. They didn't back down, they doubled down. Sure enough, POA security rolled up again. Mr. Vance, a pompous retired banker, and Tina Reed, who'd once tried to ban wind chimes for noise pollution. They parked their golf cart at the boundary, scribbling notes. Mark let his cameras roll. He taped incident summaries to his fence, listing the pad's federal registration, emergency code, and FAA case number. Vance squinted at the signs, then radioed Linda. She abandoned her beautification walk to nitpick neighbors' shutters and stormed to Mark's gate, clutching a folder labeled Pad Dispute. "Talk here," Mark said, nodding at the cameras. Linda unleashed a tirade about community harmony and Sewell standards. He let her rant, then held up FEMA and FAA letters. Her face twitched at the logos, but she scoffed. Bureaucratic nonsense. He played the chopper's audio, the pilot's tense voice cutting through. "No Sewell. Diverting." Linda's jaw tightened, but she pivoted. "You're blowing this out of proportion, Mark. Neighbors don't act like this." He held up the FAA's warning letter. "Read it." Her eyes narrowed. "So that's how it's going to be." She stormed off. Linda spun a tale in her newsletter, painting Mark as a power-hungry bully with a militarized stunt pad. Some neighbors bought it, but Mark had allies. Ellie Moore, a retired EMT who'd used the pad to evacuate seniors during the fires, rallied her network. The local EMS commander filed a complaint against the POA for obstructing emergency VYCS. Linda called it fake news. Then the FAA showed up. 2 agents rolled in unannounced, badges out, asking for Linda. She mistook them for delivery guys, waving them off mid-latte. When they clarified, her face went white. They grilled her for 2 hours, pulling satellite images and reports. Linda locked herself in a board meeting, but neighbors overheard her claim the pad was abandoned. The agents showed her its active registration. She stammered, "It's outdated," and Mark's scaring the neighborhood. That night, the FAA warned Mark that further POA interference would be treated as obstruction of federal infrastructure. He posted the notice publicly. Linda pushed a POA vote to censure him for intimidation. It tanked. Board members bailed. One quit outright. A news crew covering rural emergency response interviewed Mark. Their drone footage beige pad, gold POA seal, diverted flight path aired at 6, sparking outrage. Linda's name trended with memes like Chopper Blocker and Beige Bandit. The FAA demanded POA records, and Linda's own email bragging about restoring order became federal EVY Denke. The regional director warned of fines, permit losses, and personal liability. Mark pinned the letter to his gate. Linda showed up with her lackeys, demanding he take it down. Public record, he said, standing firm. His cameras caught her rant, including her dig at the chopper crew as wannabe stunt pilots. Community support surged. Ellie dropped off a pie. Neighbors nodded in solidarity. Linda's town hall to salvage her image imploded. One resident asked why she painted over a rescue pad. Another accused her of endangering a kid. A third quoted her pilot jab. Linda fled. An FAA official, state liaison, and sheriff returned for a site re-VYEW. Mark presented permits, photos, and recordings. They thanked him, then cornered Linda at the POA office. She emerged rattled, a glass shattering behind her. A leaked summons for a CIVYL hearing spread online. Linda sued Mark for defamation, her typo-riddled complaint citing tweets. His lawyers countered with a dismissal and a claim for damages, obstruction, and trespassing. The hearing was chaos. Media swarmed. The judge, sharp and fed up, tore through Linda's flimsy defense emails, a slideshow of her POA awards, blurry photos. Asked why she repainted the pad, she said, "I thought it looked prettier." The room gasped. Her credibility evaporated. The judge barred the POA from touching the pad and ordered Linda to federal mediation, hinting at personal liability. Headlines screamed, "Helipad Linda faces federal fire." Her pilot jab went viral, spawning memes of her wielding beige paint. The FAA's report confirmed her paint job caused a life-threatening delay. VYOLADing emergency protocols. Linda was named the culprit, warned of jail for future stunts. POA board members jumped ship. Two resigned, claiming she'd bullied them. Emergency elections loomed. Linda refused to quit, launching a blog titled "Painted into a Corner," ranting about her beautification rights. It got yanked for violations. Mark declined a FEMA award, but filmed a testimonial on emergency infrastructure. Linda faced la 5,000 in damages. Her insurance bailed, and her fundraiser flopped as neighbors shared stories of her petty fines bikes on porches, wrong flowers. Her downfall wasn't just the pad. It was years of unchecked power. Ellie won the POA election, vowing transparency and safety. She apologized to Mark and emergency SARE VYCS, hand-delivering the letter. Linda picketed a fire safety seminar with a POA tyranny sign, but neighbors ignored her. A new rule curbed POA power near emergency sites, and a plaque honored the pad's role, earning first responder praise. Mark added remote lights and solar backups, partnering with the youth of VY-Asian program to teach kids about medevac. The pad became a symbol of preparedness. The governor's office in VY Ted Mark to an emergency response ceremony. He accepted a plaque, spoke briefly, and flew back on the same chopper, landing perfectly on the restored H. Linda's house, behind its beige walls, sat silent. She stopped showing up. Her socials went dark. AMO VYing truck rolled in quietly. Linda, diminished, oversaw the loadout, avoiding eyes, and drove off. At a barbecue by the pad, Ellie raised a glass. To good neighbors, fast choppers, and slow egos. Mark grinned. The pad's lights glowed softly in the twilight. It was named a training site for aerial crews. Young pilots practiced landings, Leah VYing tire marks, and hope. A kid on a scooter rolled by Linda's empty house. "She painted the rescue pad, right?" His mom nodded. "Yeah, but she's gone. Keep MOVYing." The pad stood ready, a testament to Mark's fight not for pride, but for the next life needing those critical minutes. So what do you think? Was Linda just clueless, or was she power-hungry enough to risk lives for control? Should Mark have fought harder sooner, or was his slow burn takedown the only way? Could the neighbors have stopped her before it got this far? Drop your thoughts below, hit that like button if this story fired you up, and subscribe for more real-life dramas that'll keep you on edge. Let's get this debate rolling.